Hey guys, it's JJ here, and today, by the title of the video, I'm going to be taking you guys through some Drake X Future kind of beat, especially the reversed ones, because those always go hard, and I don't see even enough reverse beat tutorials on YouTube, so I'll do it myself. So let's just get straight into this. First of all, we got ourselves an instance of Analog Lab, and I'm using a preset called Pro VS91 Nightmare, but I honestly just laid out a very simple repeating chord progression, and you may wonder how I came up with this. Honestly, I just played about with it. I was going for something quite dark, so I was like, okay, let me place a normal minor, then a diminished minor, then play the D, then play this, and then went back up from a diminished minor to a normal minor and just repeated it like every bar. That's how I came up with this pattern, and this is what it sounds like. That's a very nice synthy pad, and let's get to the effects. As for effects, I added this EQ, cut off some lows I didn't like, a few highs, and boosted and taken away some frequencies I was a fan of and not a big fan of. Next up, I got Portal, and I opened it up and I added a preset called the Great Slowness, and it was around like a 30% mix. I personally thought it sounded good. I added a bit of like a textural element to the back, so sounds super dope. And then of course you got yourself some reverb for the ambience. Next up we got ourselves Omnisphere, and we're using one of my favorite synth bass presets, and you guys should know this by now. It's the Growler Moog bass. Can't go wrong with it. Always hard for dark beats, so really recommend it. And all I did was follow the root notes and play the D every 2 bars, and then code off towards the end just to add a bit of this weird little tension. It's kind of like some A Candy, but more for the whole tension thing. So this is what the bass sounds like. And there you have it. And for this bass, I didn't add any effects because I just thought it sounded good as it was. So let's move on to the next thing. Next up, we got ourselves a preset called Lead Game, and it's from the Shinzu Serum Bank Volume 1. And honestly, I just came up with this nice little like cascading lead effect. I made sure the legato was turned on so it glides into each other quite nicely. But with all that being said, this is what the lead sounds like. And there you have it. As for effects, all I did was cut off all the lows and a few of the highs really. And then on top of that, I just added this Panomatic, Fruity Panomatic, and these are the settings I used for it. And then last but not least, I stereo separated this to the max, so it was nice far back in the mix. It was a bit of A Candy, and it does the job really nicely. Because the thing is, the preset itself already had a really good amount of reverb, so I was like, let me just keep it like this. Next up, we got ourselves the VST called Piano V2, and we're using the preset American Medium Room. And as you guys know, I am a sucker for piano stabs, so I literally place one literally at the start of every 4-bar loop, and it's just a D sharp stacked on top of each other at the very lower octaves. This is what it sounds like. And there you have it. You may be already thinking like, how does this come into a reverse beat? And to be honest with you guys, when it comes to reverse beat, it's I'll make the loop, I'll listen to the loop, and then I'll mess with the pitch and reverse it and just see what it sounds like. And then from there, it sparks new ideas, new alternative paths for what your melody or your whole beat could go into. So always keep that in mind when you're making any sorts of beats, in my opinion. As for effects, I just put an EQ cutting off literally all of the lows, and that's what I really needed. And then on top of that, I added a reverb just because like this isn't the main instrument playing, because it was the original synth as you guys heard. I wanted to have a bit of stereo separation so it's not just so in your face in the mix. Adding some reverb, as you guys can see here. And then of course, a tiny bit of stereo separation, around 40%, just does the job really nicely for not having the piano be too far in your face. Lastly, we got ourselves a preset from Expand 2, and it's called the D Something Beauty, and it's in the Polysynths bank. And honestly, when I did this, I just played around with the notes and just let them build up by itself, and that's all I really did. It was just really nice sounding, and this is what it sounds like. And there you have it. As for effects, I whacked on an EQ, of course, cutting off a lot of the lows and a few of the highs just to reduce the whole harshness of the sound. On top of that, I added this fruity delay, and this is exactly how I did it. And the reason I did this was because it just thickens the sound a bit more, and with the whole ping pong thing going on, it just adds a little bit of ear candy again, a bit of movement to the whole melody. And then of course, some more reverb because it just makes it nice and sits comfortable in the mix. And then last but not least, I stereo separated the sound around 58%, just so again, it just sits nicely in the mix. But before I show you guys the whole melody, let me know in the comments if you guys maybe even want to see some like mixing tutorials or any other different routes and avenues I could potentially just take on the channel, just in case you guys have any interests or things you'd like to see from me. And now without further ado, we have the full sample here, so let's hear what it sounds like. And there you have it. Obviously, it sounds a bit here and there, not the best in my opinion, but when it's all reversed and you hear it together, it sounds super dope. And one thing I also really like about this original sample is the way the piano, when the lead had like a still like call and response thing going on. I think it's also a really, really good thing you can incorporate into your melodies. And now, last but not least, what I did was I rendered all the things out, and of course, I reversed the melody. And then I took it all down by 500 cents to give it a nice little darker feel to this whole moody Drake and future aesthetic and vibe. And then on top of that all, I added a gross beat to all of the reverse melodies. So what it does is it's a gate, a half beat gate, and I ducked the volume down a bit so it just had like a nice little bit of movement and bounce to it. So without further ado, this is what the final melody sounds like. And there you have it. That's the whole reverse melody sample. I think it sounds super dope and fire. I can hear Drake just cruising over this while Future just does this whole Toxic Boy for Life thing. But without further ado, let's get straight into these drums. First of all, we got ourselves the clap pattern, and what I did was just play this very nice, simple, repetitive pattern. It's essentially this just copy and pasted over every 2 bar, but then I added this nice little extra thing to come in at the end of the 4 bar. And bear in mind, this Lex Luger slap clap is laced over with a Lex Luger snare, and it just makes it sound extra crispy because I feel like a snare just punches through nicer, especially when you're going for this little bit of a moody kind of feel. So without further ado, this is what the clap and snare sound like together. And there you have it. Sometimes you don't always need to use different instruments to have like these nice little like bounces going, such as like here and here. And sometimes it's just best using the original clap or snare that you're using, just because this feels hella more trap, and I think it just sounds really, really dope. Now, next up we got ourselves the hi-hat pattern. And yes, it's a bit crazy to be fair, but it suits the beat very, very nicely, and I'll take you guys through it now. Firstly, I turn my magnet tool on to quarter step, and then over here. So firstly, I turned my magnet tool onto quarter step, then I came down, drew a roll by clicking shift and just dragging it along. Then I added a little roll on top of here, a nice little cascading, but playing with the velocities, of course. And then always remember, just play with the pitch, like play with the pitch of your note, play with the pitch of your hi-hats, because it always just adds a little bit of like air candy to the whole beat. So I just think it does the job really good, and this is what the hi-hat sounds like. And there you have it. Next up, of course, we got ourselves a kick pattern, and you want to make sure you click that Control A and use your scroller wheel to max the velocities out, so your kick is always going to be punching through all the club speakers. Because we are making a Future and Drake beat, and you know what that means. It's got to be banging in a club, so gotta have banging drums. And this is what the kick pattern sounds like. There you have it. Next up, of course, we got ourselves the 808 pattern, and all I did was just follow the root note, which is now a B minor, which is why the whole thing is just key to a B. And I added these nice little rolls at the end of the 4-bar loops, just, you know, a bit of extra bounce. And of course, I followed the kick pattern whilst doing this 808 pattern, and Control A to match your velocities. This is what the drum sounds like. And there you have it. Now, last but not least, I had this nice little kind of like perk that I wanted to incorporate in the beat, and it suited the whole aesthetic quite well. It repeats every 2-bar, and it just plays at the very, very start. So this is what the perk sounds like. As for effects for this perk, all I really did was just add a repeating delay with these presets on, and that's all it really was. And now with all that being said, this is what a full drum pattern sounds like. And there you have it, guys. You guys have all the sorts you need for a nice reverse beat for Drake and Future. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. And of course, you know, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff down below. I always read your comments. And of course, take it easy, guys. Thanks for watching, and peace.